And now for breaking news, we go right over to Dee's from the El Donzo and Dee Show.
Yeah, thanks, Chet. Listen, the world has been fascinated by this story, and it will go down as one of the most important moments in human history. And we are now reporting that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have shared a kiss, and it was captured on camera. Oh, yeah, World War III is breaking out in Israel, and there was a mass shooting in Maine.
Coming at you from the Skyhammer Studios here on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. This is the El Donzo and Dee Show.
You have insanity in my earpiece.
Oh, the insanity in the earpiece tonight. I'm El Donzo.
I'm Deez.
And we've got an awful lot to talk about. So we've got this shooter up in Maine, this active shooter, which... we've been trying to follow this. We pre-taped the show. But Deez, have they caught him yet?
No. Again, this recording is taking place Thursday evening, and as we speak, there are reports of loud bangs, possibly gunfire, possibly tear gas canisters going off at a property that Robert Card is associated with. So that's what's happening literally up to the minute as of this recording Thursday evening. Hard to say what's going to come out by the time you folks hear this on Saturday, but that's what we know so far.
So we've got a lot of things to go over with this, and we're going to get into that later in the show, okay? So we've got the shooting up in Maine. We've got this anti-Semitism going around in the country. We're going to get into that in depth as well. The whole thing going on with Israel and Hamas, and these supposed war crimes, and these politicians coming out, and these colleges that are in support of Hamas. We're going to break that down for you. There's a new Speaker of the House.
Yeah, hey.
So we've got that news too. We've got Donald Trump. But pretty much the world's going to hell in a handbag. And what I want to talk about on this show is we're going to do our jovial or funny stuff. Don't get me wrong. We're going to do that because we need to laugh a little bit, don't we, Deez? We need to laugh at this point.
Yeah.
Something has got to make us laugh. We've got to have something where we go, holy smokes, everybody, look at this.
Get them in now, folks, because we're almost out of chuckles.
Exacaries. And we're going to get in whenever we can. It's never time to panic, but sometimes it's time to hunker down and prepare. And before we go into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for the show, EnviroSeal. If you have sunken concrete slabs like patios or driveways, give those guys a call. They will come out and use polyurethane insulation spray foam and pump up the slabs. They'll get the slabs leveled out for you. They'll be ready to drive on the same day, and you'll be good to go. Give those guys a call, 309-275-6303 for EnviroSeal. And they also do residential and commercial spray foam insulation with that polyurethane foam. So
will they insulate my bomb shelter?
I bet they would. They'll do anything for money. I know the guy that runs a company, and if you say, hey, look, dude, I've got this issue. I need to insulate a bomb shelter. I've known this guy my whole life. He will come out and he will figure out a way to do it.
Good to know.
Speaking of bomb shelters, so with everything going on in the world, all the craziness, and like I said, we're going to get more in depth about this as we go into the show, because there's an awful lot to look at right now. The world is a really bad place at this point in time. And a lot of people don't realize it. They go to the bar, they get drunk, they watch football, they do whatever, they watch baseball, they go out and gamble,
feeling kind of attacked.
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. You always say you're feeling attacked, but I'm not going after you.
Literally just described my weekend. I went
wait
up to the bars,
Now wait a minute.
I watched football.
Now wait.
Baseball.
Now just damn it. Wait a minute, Deez. Okay, let me go on here. But you pay attention to what's going on in the world. It's okay to have a release. You have a release on the weekends. You say, hey, I'm done with politics. I'm done with current events. I'm going to watch some football. I'm going to relax. And then back on Monday, we start show prepping. And we go through and we do whatever we have to do. And we report the news. We opine on it. We give our take on it. But we're up to snuff. A lot of people bury their heads in the sand. And I'm going to tell you something right now. All of us are watching the collapse of civilization before our eyes. Societal collapse is taking place before our eyes. Now, I've never broached this subject before, but I want everybody to think about something. We've never been so divided as a country. This is something else we're going to get into. Half of 18 to 24-year-olds in this country, what was it, Gen Zers, I guess it is, right? Millennials came before Gen Zers, D's, am I correct?
Gen Z and millennials are basically the same
the same thing. Okay, so the 18 to 24-year-olds in this country side with Hamas. Okay?
Yeah. I would say that young would be technically classified as Z. Millennials are like in the 25 to 30, 35 range.
Okay. All right. Good enough. So we'll say Gen Z.
A lot of them are idiots too, though.
Yeah, but they're all idiots at this point. So these people side with Hamas over Israel. And like I said, we have an awful lot to talk about on this show. So anyway, you've got 50% of these youths that believe Israel is evil. All right. We've had our borders wide open for a couple of years now. Wide open. And we've talked about it on the show. I will guarantee you dollars to donuts that Iran and Palestine and Hezbollah and Hamas has sent people over this border. So has North Korea. So has China, and so has Russia. So we have that on the home front. We have an invasion at our own border. We're worried about everybody else's border, but we're not taking care of ours. The stuff going on with Hamas going in on October 7th. And did you watch the video of this?
Of what?
When the Hamas fighters went in and just started axing people?
No.
It's horrible.
Oh, I'm sure.
And just the stuff they released. They're animals. They're bloodthirsty savages. Now, we have people coming out and saying that Israel's committing war crimes. Well, I got news for you. They're not. They use the Palestinians as human shields. We've got a story coming up in the show that I want to go over with everybody where literally Hamas is blocking Palestinians from leaving the Gaza Strip. They're shooting them if they try to leave. They're sending them back because they know that that's conflicting for Israel. They're literally using them as human shields. With all the stuff going on in the Baltics, the Mediterranean Sea, the Black Sea, we've got China in the Middle East right now. We've got Russia in the Middle East right now. We've got the United States in the Middle East right now. And the United States military, the bases and the warships are getting attacked. We are in World War III. Now, I got a question, Deez. When somebody went to fight in World War I from the United States, which they came in pretty late in the war, did they tell their buddies, well, I'm going to fight World War I? No. They said, we're going to fight in Europe. In World War II, when young men were drafted to go over and fight in the European theater, they said, we're going to go over and fight in World War II. No, they didn't. They said, we're going to go fight the Germans, didn't they? Or
no,
the Japanese or whatever.
Yeah, we were at war with Japan, didn't really get into the European theater for a year and a half.
No, I understand, but I'm talking about at any point. Nobody said, we're going to go fight World War II. It wasn't World War II or World War I until after the fact.
Yeah, until it was in the history books. It was not. Nobody
telling
ever called
you
it that. But
right now, we are in it. And people need to take heed, and people need to prepare for this.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at your history books and really dive into like the beginnings of those wars or of any major war for that matter, it's never like, okay, here's 50,000 troops, boom, they start fighting. It's always these little things, these little skirmishes, or one country we don't care about invades another country we don't care about, and then we somehow get involved, and then next thing you know, it's everywhere. And that's what we're seeing right now is the infancy of what's probably going to become known as World War III.
And there's so many fronts that we have to deal with right now. And we're going to get into that as well. But one thing I really want to touch on, and we're coming to the end of the first segment here, and we'll go into it on the second segment as well. but this is important. With everything going on domestically and internationally in the world right now, you need to take steps to be prepared. Anything could happen at any given moment in time. We could talk tornadoes, we could talk wildfires, we could talk earthquakes, we could talk electromagnetic pulses, we could talk nuclear war. You need to be taking steps right now to make sure that you and your loved ones and your friends are taken care of, that you have that fallback. One of those things is preparedness. Making sure you have enough food and water for 3 weeks. How many people really have enough water for 3 weeks, Dees?
Very, very few.
Very few. People don't even think about this. If the grid goes down, and all this revolves around the grid going down, because societal collapse, nuclear war, World War III, EMPs, this is all the grid goes down. Your water stations don't pump water anymore. You know, I heard somebody, and we'll wrap up with this before we go on to the next one. Natural gas. People always say, well, if power goes out, I have a natural gas furnace insert, and I'll heat my house with natural gas. And until those electric natural gas heater pumps lose pressure, then you're not heating with it anymore.
Yeah. The gas has to be pushed through those pipes.
Electrically.
Yes. If the machines aren't operational that do that, you're not going to have it. I mean, if you have, a tank outside your home, you're going to have it until that's out, and then you're done. But yeah, the people don't really grasp what all the grid going down entails.
Okay, so we were talking about in the last segment getting prepared. We talked about having enough food and water for 3 weeks. 3 weeks is a good standard. If you can go 3 months, 6 months, that's great. But 3 weeks is really like the minimal you want to do. We talked about, here's a good example. We talked about natural gas. If you're on natural gas, do not rely on that to heat your house. Now, I know this is a little bit out of the ordinary, what we're doing on these segments right now for everybody, but I thought it was time. And this actually, Dees, it took me a while to come to this point, to really say, we should talk about this. Because as you know me, I'm a bit of a prepper.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to keep that to myself. I don't think it's my time to get out here on the airwaves and use our show to suggest that people do something. I shouldn't say suggest that people do something unless I really think it's time for it. Because that's kind of the thing. We're out there. We've got the ears of all these people. We should be letting people know when it's time not to panic, but time to be prepared. It's never too late to be prepared unless you find you're in the sticks hit the fan situation, which any moment now you could be. So we talked about water, okay? At least a half gallon per person per day just to drink, just to stay hydrated. Remember, water in a natural disaster or in a man-made disaster or catastrophe, you'll die of thirst and dehydration before you die of anything else. You got to have water, okay?
Yeah, human can go upwards of 3 weeks without anything to eat. But water, you're talking a matter of days.
You're done 3 days. 3 days max you can go without consuming water, okay? Now, I've gone a couple weeks just consuming beer. It's probably not good for you, but you can do it.
Yeah, there's still some water
but you're
in there,
still getting some kind of hydration, some form of hydration. Now, I'm being cheeky. Some form of hydration in there. Okay, next thing, so it's a rule of threes. 3 hours without shelter, 3 hours without water, 3 weeks.
3 days.
Or 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. So you got to have enough food set up. Make sure your minimum calories don't go below 1,000 calories a day. All right? So if you have a family of 4 people, you need a minimum 4,000 calories a day. That's if you're hunkering down. You're not doing much, you're hunkering down. So you're going to need a minimum of 2 gallons of water to drink per day, and that's not counting hygiene. All right? You're going to need to keep your shelter warm, so you have to figure out ways to do that. We'll even talk about that. You know what? Let's just have part of a show where we do this, because I want to get this out. Maybe I'll have more shows, more El Donzo only, or maybe El Donzo and D shows after hours where we talk about this stuff. But you need to start thinking about this. If that grid goes down, you don't have natural gas. The gas pumps don't work. If we have an EMP, which is the worst case scenario, or a nuclear weapon, your cell phones don't work. Your vehicle may not work. Okay? The grid is down. You're going to die. Unless you've really thought this out and taken precautions, you're dead. We're going to be eating you.
Yeah, a lot of people don't quite grasp, like I was saying at the end of the last segment, what losing the grid would entail. The generation of, 35 and younger, like they don't know what it was like before this age of internet and information. Your cell phones are going to be bricks.
Yeah. Yep.
You're not going to have any electronics, no internet, none of that stuff, because in the worst case scenario, do I believe it's going to come to that real soon? No. Do I think it's going to eventually happen? Yeah. But in the unlikely event that this thing pops off, whoever is targeting us or whatever, their first priority is going to be kill the grid, kill the electronics, kill communications, kill everything that they can possibly do to keep people from gathering information. Obviously, the U.S. military and stuff like that have their ways, whether it's telegraph, ham radios, things like that. But as far as like you being able to communicate with your family, your phones aren't going to work. Your landlines aren't going to work.
No, they're not. And your vehicles may not work either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a debated thing where the vehicles work in an EMP situation, which a nuclear detonation will cause EMPs. Don't get me wrong. But an EMP detonated, 200 miles.
There's so many computer systems in cars now that, yeah, a lot of them could be rendered useless.
Absolutely, they could be. You need to think about this. You need to think about your survival here. So we talked about food. We talked about water. What are you going to do for heat? Get some backup heaters. Get some of those little green LP tanks. You seen those at Walmart?
Or even kerosene, yeah. But
Kerosene,
yeah,
something.
The little Coleman things you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Get a Coleman heater and start stocking up on those. When it comes down to it, don't think about heating your whole house. Think about heating exactly what you need to keep you and your family warm.
Yep, one room where everybody could be in.
Exactly. Gather in one room, get in there, stay warm. Don't crank it up to 80 degrees. Crank it up to survival temperature, 50 degrees. Have blankets. Think about this. Do you have enough sleeping bags and cots and blankets for everybody in your family?
Choose somewhere in the middle of your house
that's not exposed to an exterior wall.
Yep, no exterior walls.
Keep that as good. Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. You got to start thinking about this stuff. What are you going to do? I got a question. If the stick hits the fan tonight, what are you going to do for waste control, waste disposal, bodily waste? Of course, we're going to go urinate outside. But when you urinate outside, you have to open the door. You may let cool air in if it's wintertime. But what about the other one? What about the number 2? You have to have a plan for that. Do you have enough water on hand? No, I'm serious. Do you have enough water on hand to flush your toilet? Can you spare that water to flush your toilet? These are things you have to start thinking about. They're very, very important. Another one, firearms and ammunition. I'm going to tell you something. And I've gotten in arguments with people about this. Let me see how much time we got, because I love going off on this tangent. I'm going to go off on more, like I said, outside of the show. Firearms and ammunition. Let's say you get all this stuff. You get the water, you get the food, you blah, 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 blah. Firearms and ammunition. If they see smoke coming from your chimney in the middle of winter and somebody's near freezing to death and their family hasn't eaten in a week, you're going to tell me they're not going to come looking for what you've got?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've watched enough Walking Dead to know that even if the zombie apocalypse happens, they're not the biggest threat. The biggest threat is going to be other humans.
No, this is another reason I push firearms and ammunition. Look what's going on in Maine right now. We're going to talk about that story, hopefully in the next segment or the segment after, and get in depth about it and why people are losing their minds. But this guy is currently on the lam, as far as we know, right? He's on the run. He went in and killed, 16 people, injured, up to 50 others?
No. 18. It's a total.
It's 18. It's changed. It was 22. It was 16. Now it's 18.
18 dead, 13 injured.
Folks, you never know what in the hell is going to pop off. Just in Lincoln in the past couple days. Lincoln, which is a town not far from us. We had a mass shooter. Didn't kill anybody, but he injured him, I think. So we have to be wary of this. And the liberals and these politicians are going to keep holding you back from having the things. They're going to protect you.
As of 15 minutes ago, back to the shooter in Maine, they are at one of the properties he is associated with, and officers could be heard yelling, "You are under arrest, hands in the air." They're trying to talk to him. They're calling him by his name, so it looks like they may know where he is at.
Okay, and this was in Lewiston, Maine, correct?
Yes.
Okay, have you ever heard of Lewiston, Maine?
No.
Do you think anybody listening right now that's outside of the local area ever heard of Danvers, Illinois?
No.
Or really even Bloomington Normal? Probably not.
No.
But it happened. And there's people holed up in Lewiston, Maine right now that are loading their guns, or that were. I mean, hopefully they get this guy. Hopefully they subdue him. Obviously, this guy has a lot of mental issues. I mean, if you read his rap sheet, which we're going to get into, and now all the liberals are coming out talking about gun control and all this other stuff, that's not going to make a damn difference because they didn't follow the laws that were already on the books. They didn't head this off at the pass. My point is, it's now time for people like me and people like these to come out and start saying, you have to do something about this. You have to prepare and take care of yourself. Medical necessities. What do you do if you get shot? Do you have a tourniquet on you? Do you have Celox gauze? Do you have any kind of hemostatic bandages? You got to think about this. This is stuff you should have on hand. And you know what? If you never have to use it, that's great. Because I hope nobody ever has to use anything. I hope nobody has to go into their water storage or their food storage or their backup energy. I hope they don't have to. But you know what? Even if you live to be 100 years old and you never had to go into that reserve, you're still going to be glad you had it. How about this one? EMPs, we talk about that, right? We talked about electromagnetic pulses. What about Faraday cages? Let's say you've got flashlights and cell phones. Let's say you got two-way radios. Let's say you got a backup generator. What if an EMP goes off, which is probably one of the most likely weapons to be used in an attack against us? It's fried. Yes, this is a rabbit hole. This is a rabbit hole you have to go down. But damn it, it's worth it to do it and worth it to start doing the research and prepping now for it. This is the Aldonzo and D Show. And in the last segment, we were talking about being prepared because there's so many fronts that we're looking at right now. I'm telling you, China is really, really focusing on Taiwan. They're moving their military and their air force closer to the strait. We have the stuff with Russia and Ukraine, with which Russia is in bed with China. Iran is a proxy of Russia, which is a proxy of China. We've got so many things going on here right now. And we also have these two fronts at our home, which is internally these people that side with Hamas to the point, it's like Black Lives Matter. We talked about that last weekend. That started an uprising, and then the trans BS bull sticks, and now it's Hamas. And I've got some stats we're going to go into about where this whole anti-Israel thing started. But what you got to look at, the people that are siding with Hamas are no different than Nazi sympathizers at this point. They want to eradicate the Jews. Okay? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is eradicating Israel. They want to get rid of the Jews. That's what they're preaching. That's what they're telling people. And these people are getting worked up in arms and saying the Israelis are horrible people. I've got something here. Queen Rania from Jordan. She did an interview with Christine Amanpour on CNN, and she had this to say, and I'm going to play it for you real quick, and we're going to break it down. Roll clip.
We are just shocked and disappointed by the world's reaction to this catastrophe that is unfolding. In the last couple of weeks, we have seen, a glaring double standard in the world. When October 7th happened, the world immediately and unequivocally stood by Israel and its right to defend itself and condemned the attacks that happened. What we're seeing the last couple of weeks, we're seeing silence in the world. Countries have stopped at just expressing concern or acknowledging the casualties, but always with a preface of declaration of support for Israel. And, are we being told that it is wrong to kill a family, an entire family at gunpoint, but it's okay to shell them to death?
Okay, so the first thing I want to get out of the way here, okay, is she said, is it okay to use bullets and massacre a family? No, but it's okay to shell them to death. Okay, the first thing is, we have given the Palestinian people, let's say Israel, not we, even though Israel's like our Pearl Harbor, okay, you got to look at it in those terms. It's an outpost. Israel has told the Palestinians to leave the Gaza Strip or to go to the bank or whatever, get out of there. Now, I'm going to tell you something. The people in the kibbutz of Israel that got hit on October 7th didn't have that option. Hamas didn't say, you guys need to leave, we're going to come in and we're going to declare war on Israel, so the civilians need to leave. They didn't have that option. They were butchered and massacred. They cut babies' heads off. They tortured people. After they killed women, they had sex with them. They raped them beforehand. They raped them afterhand. They burned them to death. They didn't get that option. Israel's going in there and saying, you need to evacuate. You need to get out of there. You know what? Do you know what Hamas is doing? Hamas set up roadblocks, okay, to not let the Palestinians leave. They turned them around, and if they refuse to turn around, they shot them. Okay? That's eyewitness accounts coming out of Palestine. They're using them as human shields. Hamas took over in 2007, officially. Okay? The Palestinians still support them. A majority of Palestinians still support Hamas as their governing system. Now, I feel bad for any women and children and civilians that get killed in this thing, but it's completely different than what took place on October 7th. The Israelis do not want to kill any civilians. They have to eradicate Hamas. Hamas has been doing this for years, which is using the Palestinian civilians as human shields. This is it. This is how this has gone down. They know what they're doing. They know why they're doing it. I got a question. If you're a Muslim and you're Hamas and you're that extreme that you are willing to die, you think it's not that you're willing to die. I'm willing to die for my family. I'm willing to die for my loved ones, okay, in self-defense to save their lives. But when you're willing to die for some belief, like you said, some spaghetti monster in the sky, or what? How did you put that?
Flying spaghetti monster.
Flying spaghetti monster in the sky. They have been brainwashed and brought up with this for so long that they think dying is the ultimate achievement. If I die, that's great. Well, you think they're not going to sacrifice other people when they go and do this to innocent Israelis? And by the way, the Israelis in these kibbutzes were taking in Palestinian civilians and employing them. They thought they could skate out of this scot-free. Well, they didn't. We're going to get into that about these idiots that have been brainwashed. Some of them Jews that think the Israeli state is committing war crimes. They're not committing war crimes. What do you do when people are taking their own civilians and their own people hostage and holding them there and using them as human shields? Oh, war's off. We can't do anything now. You just go ahead and keep bombing us. You know, they did this two-state thing with the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. Back in 2005 is when this started. They said, we're going to give this to you. You can have it. And then they started launching rockets at them. And they've been launching rockets at them. You know, Joe Biden, this thing came out, and I don't know how accurate it is, but he said, don't make the same mistake we made on 9/11. You got to show some restraint, I'm going to tell you something. Their 9/11, this is not their 9/11. It is and it isn't. We had 9/11, then we went into a war for 20 damn years. And what happened after 20 years? We're out of here. You just go back to doing what you're doing. We'll just eat all this money and all these lives and all these men's blood, and we'll just walk away. No, they've been fighting this war for decades. We were in the war at. Yeah, they've been fighting this for decades. And finally, Hamas said, you know what? We need to kick this off. And I'm telling you, Iran's behind it. All right, so this is another story here. Cooper Union University Jewish students barricaded inside the university's library Wednesday when pro-Palestinian protesters blew past security and aggressively pounded on the building's doors. A Jewish senior at the East Village Institution recounted the terrifying moment she watched the demonstrators slam anti-Zionist posters against the window and shout anti-Semitic rhetoric. They're doing gas the Jews. One solution. Kill the Jews. F the Jews. I cannot believe this day and age, let's just call it Nazism. They want to eradicate a race of people because they actually believe they're better than they are. And they actually believe that they're the root of all cause of the evil in the world? How about this one? F Israel graffiti scrawled across Cornell University campus sidewalks. Cornell University's bucolic upstate New York campus was defaced with hateful anti-Israeli graffiti Wednesday morning as some messages read F Israel and Zionism equals racism. They're trying to compare, folks, Israelis to the Russians and vice versa, which couldn't be any farther from the truth. Israel didn't go in and declare war on anybody. Hamas, Palestine, declared war on Israel. Israel tried to work out a solution between Gaza Strip and their land and say, you take this. The UN came in and gave them all this money. You know what they did with that money? Instead of building infrastructure and having civilization, they built 300 kilometers of underground tunnels, okay, to hide themselves in so they could keep striking Israel. These people do not care about being civilized. They don't care about anybody. They don't care about fellow Muslims. They don't care about Jews. They don't care about Christians. And I'm going to tell you something right now. You know, this whole thing about the day of the global jihad that was supposed to take place a couple of weeks ago, when you see what Iran has come out and said, and we'll touch on that in the next segment as well, when you see what Iran has come out and said, maybe Iran's just given that warning of, we're ready, but, you know, we're not going to kick it off yet. Let's see if you guys actually support Israel and go to the Gaza Strip, which we have that story, and it looks like Israel's doing it and kicking it off, and I support them 100%. Hey, welcome back to the El Donzo and D Show here on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. What the hell? I'm El Donzo.
Oh, am I still part of this?
Well, yeah.
I'm D's.
What do you mean, what, you still a part of this? Come, like Joe Biden says, come on, man.
Because your long-winded ass didn't give me a word in the last segment.
Well, tell you what, D's, go ahead. I've got more stories. Go ahead and have a word.
A word.
Come on.
Back to you.
Back to me. Back to you. See how this goes, ladies and gentlemen.
Blowing you
I know you're blowing me sticks, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know what's really funny? I was reading this today. Do you know
my
that
bank statement?
The bank statement? Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, right. Hey, I tell you, I get a respect. So here, check this out. Do you know what they do to gay people in Palestine?
I would imagine they stone them to death.
Well, they throw them off buildings. I mean, Palestine has got to be one of the worst, well, let's say Gaza Strip, Palestine, West Bank, whatever, has got to be one of the worst places if you're gay or transgender. You can't even go out in public. Hamas axed one of their commanders because there was an accusation of him having sex with another man. They just executed him.
Dwight Howard would have a really bad time over there.
Who's Dwight Howard?
NBA player who recently some allegations have come out. Long-time NBA player, used to be a superstar. Now he's at the end of his career, but there's been some homosexual allegations that have come out and activities. That's kind of big in the sports world right now.
Oh, well, I was unaware of that.
I'm well aware of that.
So anyway, pretty much what Hamas went up and told this guy was, "Oh, we hear that you touch Peter. So since you do this, we need to execute you." And the guy's like, "No, I didn't do that. I did not do that." And they're like, "No, you did it." Pow! And they shoot him or whatever. I don't know. So anyway,
I couldn't tell if you were like Hamas or Chinese.
Yeah, I know. I kind of mixed it up a little bit.
You have one accent.
I have multiple, but I mixed them up, and I did that. So anyway, check this out. Now, Dees can see this. It's pulled up. Look at these idiots. We have people marching with banners that say "Queers for Liberated Palestine, Gays for Gaza." Well, I've got an idea. Why don't you take your gay asses over to Gaza and see how long you last over there, you ignorant SOBs?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be long.
No, it wouldn't. And we've got Jews coming out right now. We've got Jewish people of Jewish heritage coming out and in support of Gaza, in support of Hamas, and what Israel's doing. So, what do you think? You're saved from this? You think you're absolved from this? You think they won't kill you if they come over here? What do you think? Because you come out and say, "Well, I support Gaza and I support Hamas because they've been invaded." What do you think, that they're not going to kill you too? You're going to be the first one to go. They don't care. They kill their own people. They butcher their own people. They use them as human shields. So what the hell are these people? Gays for Gaza. Gays for Gaza. It's like Rockers Against Drugs. You remember that Sam Kinison skit?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
How stupid is
Rad.
that? Rad. Rockers Against Drugs.
Well, that was drunk driving, but same thing.
Yeah, same thing. And on Tuesday night, a group of students at George Washington University, of course in our nation's capital, which is just a couple blocks away from the White House, projected messages praising the recent genocidal massacre of 1,400 Jews in Israel by Palestinians from Hamas-controlled Gaza. And it was on the school's Gelman building. A Jewish student posted online that he was harassed and called a dirty, disgusting, uneducated Jew by the demonstrators. So what they posted up there was stuff like "Glory to our martyrs," which is Hamas. They're martyrs for what they're doing. The people that went in and butchered all these Israelis are martyrs. This is brainwash at its worst right here. This doesn't get any worse than what we're seeing right now. We are absolutely, it's not even divided at this point. These people are brainwashed. Gad Saad was on, who's a prominent Jew. Gad Saad was on, what's her name? Megyn Kelly's show. And he was talking about how it's almost like parasitic worms getting into crickets' heads. Crickets don't want to go to water because they'll drown. But the parasitic worm needs water, so it gets in the brain of the cricket and makes the cricket go to the water, and the cricket drowns, but the parasitic worm gets to drink. That's what's going on with these Jewish people that are doing this BS. It's almost like there's a parasite in them. And it's this Hamas.
There is a parasite. It's called social media.
Social media is a big part of it. I agree with that.
Huge part of it.
I mean, social media has, and you know what? You know what else is a huge part of it, which is
a couple people that they follow have come out against Israel, and so they don't even educate themselves on what they're actually fighting about, and they just automatically death to Israel type stuff. And it's all social media. The collapse of this society right now will one day be traced back to social media. That is where it all started to hit the fan.
I got a question. Did you ever think when we were kids that we would ever see this level of anti-Semitism ever rear its head when we were kids?
Kids, no.
No, of course we did.
When I was a kid, I didn't know what anti-Semitism was. But
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has just accused Israel of committing war crimes. Here's another one for you. This chick got elected. Look.
Perfect example of what I'm talking about because of the kind of people that follow her and the kind of influence that she has. Idiot or not, she has a very large following in that age group.
So something else I want to talk about real quick. And, this is a big thing. Let me see if I can pull this up.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. That's right. That's what she said. So this has been going on for years, though. They have been Calls for violence against, let's pull this one up. Calls for violence against Jews rose by 1,200%, with New York City as the epicenter of the threats. They have been doing this stuff in colleges and campuses. Going back to 2021, I found news stories about how bad anti-Semitism is getting in the college and campuses. Do you think for a second that Iran, Russia, and China didn't have a part in this? They've been infiltrating our campuses for so many years, dude. Of course they're pushing it. This is all coming to a head, and this is, my point to this is, it's all been preordained. They've wanted this for so long, they've set it up for so long, and now we're eating it because we're idiots. It's the Aldonzo and D Show. We're going to take a long commercial break. Be back for the second hour on Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.